Hi, welcome to the night. I was just thinking about something that I think of every once in a while. It's called dissociative identity disorder, also known as DID or MPD. And it's something I always felt kind of that I had since childhood. And I just wanted to talk about some of that tonight in this video. So if you feel like listening to me blab about my theories and everything about this disorder, which I have studied on to some degree in high school, then please keep on watching. Okay, to me, it used to be known as multiple personality disorders. Hollywood has dramatized it a lot. And, it always was that thing you just thought of as way out there, You never really related it to your own life and life story. And I didn't think of it as more of a dissociative coping mechanism. And that's kind of what it is. It's basically, in an easy, simplistic terms, it's a way to heal, to keep from going and losing it, When you're a child and you're molested by multiple men, most of whom you don't know, you may never even see again, Going from hotel to hotel, motel, I should say. Yeah, we stayed at one place, it was a Rainbow Motel. It was really a rat's nest. It was so bad. And it was known for prostitution back in the days. It still is. It's a pretty nasty place. But for me, it's a scary thought to think that I might have something like that. What people I think don't understand about it, and Hollywood never really showed this part of it, is that it's very secretive disorder. It's a disorder basically where people feel they have to hide their shame and their secret. And so they're not going to be elaborate, make up all these over elaborate, out there characters and go posting on about, who they are. It's more of a way to accept parts of what happened to you, yet still be able to deal with everything. It's a compartmentalization. And what happens is part of the brain basically puts different pieces in different parts of, your memory and the memory storage. And basically you go about your day, you don't recall, you don't have to deal with that trauma. And, eventually when you're usually in your adult years, you'll have flashbacks and things like that, and it'll bring you back to those days. Basically, a part of you and who you are at that time stays trapped there. So part of your basic personality stays encased in each of these different time frames. So, that's why it's a cumulative type disorder, because people with DID tend to dissociate from different time periods of their life. So that's why it's hard to remember those specific times. So you might recall everything you did certain times, but yet other things you don't have access to because it's in that certain spot. So that's kind of where I am, understanding it and everything. The reason I feel compelled to share right now is because I just thought about something that happened a couple years ago. And mind you, I didn't really think about it. I didn't put all the pieces together. But I believe that one of my alters tried to come out when I was hospitalized. Well, it was right before I was hospitalized, and I had drank a lot, and I was in an altered state of mind. I'd had meds put in me by the doctors there, which they shouldn't have because I was stupid. But yeah, I wasn't like over the legal limit. And I started talking. Apparently, I came out and I started talking to my husband and this other guy there. And, I don't remember that. I don't remember a thing about it. And I never said anything to this guy. And then my husband left apparently, and he left me and this guy in the room. And because the guy was like, he was a patient, and you know how some rooms have like 2 beds, and they just do a little curtain and to separate the 2 beds. Well, that was what it was like. And so we were both in the same room, so he started talking to me even when I was by myself. And, it's really weird now that I think about it, because I would never have been okay with that. You just ask anybody or my husband or anyone, I am not okay being left alone. And that's a give me. I do not ever like it when my husband just leaves me alone somewhere, even if we're just out basic and he's like, I have to do this or that. And, he could vouch for me. I don't like being left alone, especially where there's people I don't know. I'm kind of like that. I'm really nervous being on my own because of past experiences. And I've been ditched out before, even by him. So I get really kind of nervous when I feel like I'm going to be in that position. So for one, I know that would never have been something I would have just been okay watching him leave, and having this guy keep talking to me that I didn't even know who he was. And then I remember later on when we got to the hospital, because we were both put at the Forest View Hospital, and he was kind of a small, short guy. That's kind of why maybe was okay with me, because I was small and short too. But he basically came up. The reason I felt odd about it was because he came up to me when we were at the hospital, and he was talking to me like I had already known something that he had said. And I was inside I was thinking, what the heck is this guy talking about, and why is he talking to me like this? I thought he was confusing me with somebody else. And it was so weird, though. It was I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. Buddy, I don't know you from anywhere, from here to there. You're scaring me and freaking me out and stuff. And, he just kept talking, and I was just being polite. So I acted like I understood what he said, but really I didn't even know anything he was talking about. And so, it's I'm guessing that's what it feels like all the time when you have MPD or DID. It's people come up to you and they talk to you like you should have known what they were talking about, and you don't. And you're lost, and you have to kind of just pretend, it's a world that's full of secrets, full of pretending, and full of hidden truths and hidden lies and serious horrific abuse a lot of times, and so that's how I feel about it. And I guess if you have it, you will always have it. You will always have alters or, other parts of you that some have names and some don't. Apparently we can put whatever we were at the time in and what our mentality was at the time, we can put that into the character that is created, It's not a conscious thing either. Don't think somebody just goes and says, oh, I want this, It's a subconscious thing. And one thing I also thought about is that, just a minute, I have to check on something. It's boiling.
Good. Your food's almost ready.
That's not right. I'm checking on my food because
Dinner's almost ready!
I made food today for myself. I was a good girl. But anyways, it's like, oh, I just realized that part of the reason I don't think I ever understood what was, that I couldn't recall things is because I believe that my biological mom more than likely put things in my drinks. She was always giving us something she called mud. It's basically just coffee black. Sometimes she put creamery and sugar in hers. I don't know that she ever did it with mine though, but I'd always have coffee and I called it mud. And she'd give me that all the time. And I almost wonder if she put some alcohol in it. And that's how I was sedated while I was being molested. It's very likely because my brother had fetal alcohol syndrome type symptoms when he was born, when he was a child, and that would explain a lot as well. And I didn't eat a lot. I was malnourished severely, so any type of little amount she put into it would really have affected me. And she could have done something like that, and that's why when I'm intoxicated or under the influence, I really I'm really bad. I have issues when I do that, and I won't remember it. I mean, obviously, a lot of people don't remember what they do when they're drunk, but it's like a different feeling for me, and I know 100% that I wasn't there. And my husband and this guy were talking to my other part, my other little Mona. That's what I call her now, because I think that's who she is. I became Lisa when I was adopted. And I took on all the mannerisms I have now. I changed my basic personality, and I don't even remember who I was then. So I like to call it my little Mona because that's who I was. I guess as a kid I could have used my name change to literally change who I was, and it would have been a legal process. It's kind of odd how I did that, but in the same sense, it's actually kind of ingenious. For as a little kid, I was a little kid. I was like 4 or 5 years old. So, to be able to know how to do that, you have to realize that's pretty extreme. And to just automatically change like that, there has to be another explanation. It's just too uncanny. It's too weird. And all of a sudden, I wasn't Mona anymore. I was Lisa. Talk about split personality. That's why I believe I do have it. And I believe that when I was anorexic, my little Mona self came out, because that was what was a main thing that I was dealing with when I was being abused. Control through food. And that's what I was fighting when my brother died. It brought me back to that loss of control that I had when I was being abused. And that whole feel. And that whole, just atmosphere of being out of control and being a child and not knowing what's going to happen next. And that's why I believe that about myself. I try to go in my head a lot and find the pieces of myself. I go into meditation, like I've said on other things, a lot, to try to unlock places I used to know. And it's just blackness. But I've come to understand, and I believe that maybe some of those, some of the stuff that I'm seeing is possibly my other parts. I think that we all have an inner house, and a lot of people don't talk about things like this, so it's hard to accept in our world. There's also a belief that if you have DID, you have ability to do magical things because they are very gifted. And apparently one person, this is kind of cool, and it's a true case. One person had DID, and as their main self, they didn't have any blood disorder, or it was as their alters, they didn't have blood disorder, but as their core self, they did. So if they were in one of their alters, they could eat sweets or sugar and it would not affect anything. But if they ate it in their own state of mind, then it showed up that they had, and that was something that they could prove tangibly with blood tests, and it was actually done. So it kind of shows you what the human body and mind is so capable of. And I, to some degree, think that mental illness is nothing but gifts. I think that what we have when we are diagnosed is actually so much more than what it appears to be. And maybe down the road, we won't think of it as a mental illness. We'll think of it as somebody's gift, that they are blessed to have that ability. Because DID is a coping mechanism. It's a gift. We can use it as positive or negative. We can say it's negative and it's weird and unusual, but look at Einstein. He was a genius in genius level. And look how crazy he seemed to normal people. So that just shows you that, that society might think something's odd and out of the norm. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. We wouldn't have a lot of things if there wasn't people out of the norm. So I guess in that case, I'm happy to be one of the 1 to 5% that could have DID. And there's possibly more people, but a lot of them are misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. And that's just the sad truth. And guys are diagnosed less than females because it's a shame to admit you were abused. And a lot of people won't even go to therapy. And I'm trying to heal. I'm not trying to do anything but bring awareness and help our world to see that, that such things exist and bring out the truth. Because that's important. The truth is always the most important than anything. So that was just something quick I thought of. And, I have always been interested in mental health, probably because my adopted mom, is a nurse, and she always inspired me in that. I always thought it was cool what she did. So, and I still do. And I think that mental health is important for everybody. And that we should all be our happiest versions of ourselves. So find peace and love and be your best you. Bye.